So you want to master Master Mode, huh? But you don't know where to start. So in this basic guide, I'm going to go over 5 important tips to master Master Mode. The first tip is join the Mages Guild, as well as the Fighters Guild. Every Mages Guild and Fighters Guild location, as soon as you join, have items that you can take and then sell. And for the Mages Guild, the easiest thing you can do after joining is take the non-stealable alchemy supplies. You can grab all of these and then sell them back to the guild for profit. And each Mages Guild has quite a lot of these. Make sure you check counters. There's a lot in counters as well. You can also take any other item that is not considered to be stealing and then sell it right back to the guild. So we just grab these items. We can do persuasion if we want, and then we can do haggling. I recommend doing both. Just by joining the guild though, most of the guild members will like you more, so you can get away with selling things for a little bit more. And generally, if you sell all of these alchemy supplies, you will make around 1,000 gold per Mages Guild, which is fantastic starter money to get spells early, because that's something that you're going to want to get so that you can power level and cast crazy effects, or maybe if you just wanted the money for training or for whatever you need. But each floor has different items as well, and each Mages Guild is different, but generally most Mages Guilds have a lot of these items. For the second tip, I would recommend that you optimize your starting build. So if you are trying to make a specific build, it really helps to pay attention to your starting attributes, as well as your race's base values in skills. Certain races have higher levels in things than others to start. So for example, I wanted to make a stealth archer, so I wanted agility and speed. Wood elf has 50 agility and speed, and also starts with 15 marksman compared to other races. So when I actually made marksman one of my major skills, I already had a huge advantage to that. And I also made the thief my birth sign so that I could ramp my agility early, which scales bow damage. So I did all of these things to start the game off with 65 agility and 65 speed, and I easily hit 100 in both quickly, and my damage is actually quite good, even though for the most part I don't use an enchanted bow. So I'm still able to do 8 times damage sneak attacks and kill even on master mode for most enemies. And then I do have poisons for the enemies that do not die to single stealth attacks. For the third tip, this is in relation to how low damage you deal in master mode. You deal pretty low damage in master mode, so you want to get what I like to refer to as damage ramping. So damage ramping is casting spells that apply weakness to magic on target, so that when you do damaging spells, you can easily kill things. So the spell combo I did right there, I cast weakness to magic, weakness to all elements, and then I ramped it with a second spell that does the exact same thing. Weakness to magic, weakness to all elements, and then I cast another instance of that, a third one that also deals a little bit of damage, which then allowed me to just kill an enemy with a single hit from my longsword that has elemental damage on it. So essentially what you want to do is get into the habit of spellmaking, and in order to do spellmaking, the easiest ways to get spellmaking is to buy the candles from Mystic Emporium in the Imperial City, and in order to get them, you just have to go to the market district, go to Mystic Emporium, buy them from the one shopkeeper's wife, who also is one of the best merchants in the game because she has 2,000 base gold. And in order to get to Frostcrag Spire, you just travel from Bruma, just go to the east, and then either break your way in or get the quest to get in here. And then once you have the candles, you just put them on the altar of spellmaking. And spellmaking is arguably one of the best things in the game for a variety of reasons. Even if you're running like a poison build, there are enemies that are immune to poison, so you could just make like a brief spell that does something like this, where you just ramp magical damage plus poison damage. You could just make this. Even if you just make this spell from destruction, like if you're running a poison build, this allows you to damage poison, like enemies who cannot be poisoned. I tested this on a skeleton and it worked, so feel free to run this on your poison builds. So destruction is really good and spellmaking is really good. You can also do other things. You can make literally whatever spells you want. So whatever type of build you're trying to go for, whatever type of utility spells you're trying to go for, spellmaking is huge. And also look at the cost of this. It's actually quite cheap. And thankfully, you do not need to persuade the spellmaking altar or haggle with it. If you want to buy spells, you have to haggle, you have to persuade an NPC. This, you just walk up to the altar, place your order. It's almost always super cheap unless you add crazy effects. But this is an extremely potent effect. For 75 gold, that's very cheap. So make sure you get Spellmaking unlocked. The other way to get Spellmaking unlocked for free, instead of buying these expensive, like 3,000 gold candles, is just go to all of the major towns and do the Mages Guild recommendation letters, or letter quests, and then go back to the Imperial City Arcane University, and then you can go to the Spellmaking altar there and use it for free. There's also an enchanting altar there as well. So if you want to get the Spellmaking and enchanting altar quickly, go to the Mages Guilds, sell all the alchemy stuff, make like a few thousand, persuade the one shopkeeper's wife in the market district down so that you can buy the candles for like 2.6, 2.7k, buy your sets of candles, and then you instantly have it. Otherwise, you can just do all the recommendation quests, which don't really take that long. It'll take you like 2 to 3 hours, maybe 4 if it, you know, you have to look up a guide or something. For the fourth tip, enchanting is insane. Do it. I kind of demoed that in this video just so you could see. I am always in master mode, so if you see any gameplay footage from me, it's in master mode. I refuse to play on anything else. But enchanting is actually very powerful in this game, and there's a lot of different enchantments that you can make that give you huge effects. Now, enchanting armor is usually not something you want to do unless there's a very specific reason for that, because the sigil stones that you can get from level 17 and beyond have more potent versions of enchantments you can make. So in order to enchant, you need to have an enchantable item, you need to have a soul gem, and then you need to select an enchantment. So in this case, let's enchant my Daedric Cuirass. And we have a Grand Soul Gem, which is the highest level. So another thing to do is to get Azura Star from the Azura Star quest. This is a reusable soul gem that can store up to a grand soul. So as long as you're soul trapping and killing things, you can use this to recharge your weapons, which is hugely important because other soul gems are consumed when they recharge. And you can also use it to make enchantments. But generally, you want to be making enchantments for weapons. Let's actually check that out. So let's check out this Daedric Bow. Let's throw a grand soul on it. And let's start looking at all the enchantments we can throw on here. So you can do weakness enchantments, especially on like a dagger. And what this will allow is every time you hit, you apply all these like effects. So if this were a dagger, we could throw like weakness to magic, fire, frost, poison, 100 for like 2 to 3 seconds. And then every time we hit, it scales those effects because it applies a new instance of it. And then we could also just hit with like an elemental spell to kill. You can silence. You can do just like damage. So if we wanted to go for damage, we could do something like this, where we just add damage to this bow. And right there, that's 5 times 3 damage. That's 30 damage. We could also add other elements as well. We could add poison damage, shock damage. So when you enchant, you can rename it, which is kind of cool, but also pay attention to this little like lightning bolt down here. There is a limit as to how much magnitude of enchantments can go on your item. The value in the middle is how many uses that has before it is no longer enchanted. But if you run Azura Star, it doesn't matter if it's 20 uses. As long as you're soul trapping, you can easily continue to refill your weapons. So another thing that's nice to do too is like, let's say we like let's reduce this to 2 seconds. Confirm. So we can actually add Soul Trap for a few seconds on our weapon. If you want to have a weapon refilling Azura's Star constantly, so we would do like weakness to magic, weakness to fire, frost, shock from spells, probably in an AoE, so that we can cast those at range and then start shooting with this bow to pretty much one-shot things, and then also refill the Soul Gem. It has 18 uses, but it does do quite a lot of damage. In this case, it's doing 55 damage over 3 seconds. 45 from the elemental, and then 10 from the damage health. And then we can just call this Fun Bow. But things like this, like even if you just ran this without using the weakness to magic, it's still an extra 45 damage per shot. So if you just ran this with Azura's Star, you're looking at a huge damage increase, and it only costs you 850 gold to create this. So it's pretty crazy how good it is. And another little bonus tip is that you can actually hotkey Azura's Star. So whenever it has a soul in it, all you have to do is just tap the hotkey, and it opens up the menu. If you were to do that with soul gems, what will happen is all of your soul gems that have this exact same name that are in a stack would be called upon and used. But if they had different values and different names, like if you had Grand Souls with like a Grand Soul and a Greater Soul and a Lesser Soul, if you were to hotkey Grand Soul Gem, it would be whichever specific one. So the nice thing about Azura Star is as you're killing and soul trapping, you can just like tap a button and then hit R, and then you just reset your weapon. For the 5th tip, you should know that alchemy can essentially break the game. You can make a bunch of potions and stack effects that more or less make you invincible. You can also make poisons, and weirdly, poison damage is not reduced in Master Mode. So if you hit something with a poison, it will lose this exact amount of health over time unless it is resistance, which reduces the amount, or immune. And for immune enemies, as we talked about earlier, you can use weakness to poison magic on them. If you try to make a weakness to poison, I have bad news for you. It'll be resisted because it's still you're applying the effect through a poison. There's also other things, like you can get frost damage effects through poison, which is interesting, but it is still considered a poison. But the damage ramp on it would be weakness to frost in that case. Alchemy is also a fantastic moneymaker because you're able to buy cheap things for like 2 to like 10 gold, and in some cases the ingredients are more expensive, but you can buy cheap ingredients and turn them into high value potions and make instant profit by traveling to a city, buying all the alchemy ingredients from a vendor, or especially going to farms. There are several farms located in the world map that just have like a ton of like corn and grapes and strawberries and potatoes. These can then be taken for free and crafted into high value potions. So each one of these potions is selling for 44 and now 45 because it looks like I just leveled. And if I were to take a stack of these, or like 50 to 100 of these, I'm making like thousands of gold from just making stupid potions I don't care about for almost nothing. So it's an easy moneymaker if you want to just go to a store, buy ingredients, turn those ingredients into a potion, and then sell the potion to NPCs. It's a fantastic moneymaker that's consistently good, in addition to being useful in combat and the poison damage bypassing the damage resistance or the damage nerf on the player in Master Mode. But that is it for this one. Definitely like and subscribe if you found this useful. I've been having a pretty good time playing the game on Master Mode, so definitely drop a comment as to what you think about Master Mode, and I'll see you guys in the next guide.